ACUHO-I Women in Housing Network. My name is Hannah Lozon, and I'm the coordinator of social justice education for residence life at the University of Arizona. I'm honored to be here today to share a little bit about my journey as a student affairs practitioner, social justice advocate, and educator, as well as some of the lessons I've learned over the course of my career. My time in both housing and social justice began during undergrad at the University of Michigan, when I was there during the Grutter v. Bollinger affirmative action case that was at the Supreme Court. I distinctly remember walking to first-year convocation and refusing to sign a support affirmative action petition because I thought it was reverse racism at the time. It was through my involvement on campus, and particularly the intergroup dialogue class I was required to take as an RA, that helped me understand systems of power and privilege and issues of diversity and equity on campus. Thankfully, I realized I needed to do more work on myself before I could ever work with students, and that led me to the University of Vermont, where I went through the higher education and student affairs administration program and worked in the housing department. It was there that I truly understood my own role and responsibility within systems of power and privilege and committed myself to do the work throughout my career. That led me here to the University of Arizona, where I was first a community director and moved into the coordinator role after a year and a half. As I reflect on my career, there are a couple of lessons I'd like to share with you as both a student affairs practitioner and a social justice educator. First and foremost, build relationships. I'm not talking about networking relationships. I'm talking about true, authentic, genuine connections with your colleagues, both inside and outside of your department. Take a genuine interest in their work and lives. For me, this has been fundamental for two reasons. First and foremost, I am quite literally the advocate who's supposed to ask the critical questions of my department. But because I've been able to build a network and help my colleagues understand that diversity and social justice is all of our work, I'm no longer the only one asking those questions. When a director or an assistant director is able to take a critical eye to make sure that all of our staff and students are going to feel safe, valued, and affirmed in our department, that's really what the work is about for me, and it's because I've been able to build those genuine relationships with folks where they can understand that diversity and equity is all of our responsibility. Secondly, the relationships I've been able to build outside of my department have helped my department be seen as a resource, as a strong collaborator across campus, especially with the other diversity offices. It was also because of those relationships that I've built that I was able to be given the opportunity to be the director of the Women's Resource Center for an interim capacity last semester when our director was away on leave. And it was only because of those networks that I had that opportunity. Secondly, I want to share that what has helped me is to be very clear about my values, and my mentors have helped me understand this over the course of time, and this is really how I'm authentic in my work. My colleagues know me as someone who is extremely passionate, especially when it comes to issues of diversity and equity, and for those reasons, I'm not one to shy away from conflict. I've been able to give feedback to our senior leadership when there have been decisions that I'm afraid are really not in the pursuit of our mission in terms of equity and inclusion, and because I've been able to give that feedback in an astute way, it's led to different decisions for our department. But this is, as I mentioned, one of those lessons that my mentors taught me, particularly when I was in a point of conflict where my values and I felt like the institution's values were not aligned. And she told me, Hannah, you've got to get very clear about who your values and who you are, and you'll know what to do. You'll know which battles you want to fight and which issues shouldn't bother to rise to the top, and for that lesson I am incredibly grateful. Thirdly, I want to share that if you're currently not in a position that is your dream job, how can you work in elements of what it is that you really want to do to that position? For example, when I was a community director, I knew I wanted to be the coordinator of social justice one day or do social justice work. So as a hall director, during staff meetings, I had a social justice curriculum that I worked throughout the course of the year to take my RAs through. I was volunteering with retreats and to teach classes and more. So just because your job isn't doing exactly what you might want to do one day, make sure you're still doing that role, but figure out how to make it fulfilling for you and to help take you to that next level. Finally, for us as women in housing, I want to speak a bit about supervisors and mentors. Since I've left undergrad, almost all of my supervisors have been men, almost all who've been incredibly supportive and many who are still mentors today. But those relationships with women I admire are really important to me. So when I've not had a female supervisor, I've made sure to reach out and cultivate relationships with colleagues and other women on campus who I look up to and who are at my same level to really make sure that I have that strong network around me. I ask for lunches or to go to tea, for informational interviews, and I really make sure to nurture those relationships and to say thank you afterwards and to keep those relationships and the communication open and to be helpful in any way that I can. In turn, I make sure that I offer opportunities to junior women in my department, whether to sit on a committee, to work on special projects, or to mentor whenever I can. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I have found my relationships with women some of the most critical to my success in this field, and I love the idea of this Talk About It series. With that, I'll leave you with a quote from one of my favorite activists, Australian Aboriginal activist Lila Watson. "If you are here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you are here because your liberation is bound up with mine, let us work together." Thank you.